Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this installment of our Green Greeting series. My name is Anthony Cruz, and I will be your moderator for this session. I am a Senior Sustainability Program Associate. I am very happy to be able to introduce you to my colleagues here. Aaron, take it away.
Thank you, Anthony. My name is Aaron Carr. My pronouns are he, him. I am a junior studying environmental science at the University of Pittsburgh. I am also an eco-rep, which means I work within residence halls to make campus living more sustainable. My journey in sustainability and reducing my footprint began with an interest in recycling, and I'm very excited to talk to you all about it today.
Hi, I'm Jules, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a senior studying environmental studies, and last year I was an eco-rep, and this year I'm a program associate at the Student Office of Sustainability. And I'm also really excited to talk to you guys about recycling today.
The topic for today's webinar is recycling at Pitt. Recycling both starts with and relies on all of you, so it is vital that you actively think about recycling as a choice and not as a default. This webinar will guide you through everything you need to do to make recycling successful at Pitt. Although you have to keep in mind, this session will be mostly on recycling procedures, we will also go over the importance of some reuse programs you can participate in. On the other hand, the best thing you can do for the environment is not to produce anything that could be recycled in the first place. But even if that is the case, we understand that this is a necessary and important thought to have on mind. Small caveat, I would like to quickly mention that those in the Pitt Experience partner properties may have different recycling guidelines this year from other Pitt properties. The second guidelines we'll be sharing with you today will at least apply to all other campus properties. If you have any questions throughout this session, please send out an email to the contacts that we will show at the end of the presentation. Hopefully you enjoy.
First off, we would like to make it clear that recycling is not a solution to our waste issues. Recycling is probably one of the first things that comes to everyone's head when they're asked how they care for the planet. It seems easy to do, and it makes us feel good to think that our waste isn't piling up in a field somewhere. While recycling may be one of the most available and visible options, it certainly isn't the best. There are many flaws to recycling that limit how sustainable it can be. Recycling is a fragile system that relies on careful participation from those who use it. It is also built on an economical model that requires continuous material input in the form of single-use disposables. Therefore, while the focus of our presentation will be on recycling, please take note that recycling is inferior to reducing first and reusing second. We will share some alternatives to recycling that you can pursue on campus later on. Now, you may be wondering why we're even talking about recycling at this point. While recycling isn't a perfect system, it is certainly a gateway into reduce and reuse. Our goal of this presentation is to get you in the habit of questioning the waste that you produce. We have noticed again and again that many of those involved in zero waste initiatives here at Pitt begin with an interest in recycling. Our waste issues are big problems that require solutions other than recycling. However, it is pretty obvious that many students here at Pitt do not even recycle properly. How can we motivate these students towards a mindful zero waste choices if they don't even consider recycling with respect? For this reason, we believe that it is an investment to get people to start to question the waste they produce. We hope that by engaging in recycling at Pitt, our community can open their minds to the larger issues and solutions surrounding waste. As for now, this presentation should provide everything you need to begin with this kind of thinking about your waste. Let's begin. First off, it is important that you do not assume that recycling works the same everywhere. What you can and cannot recycle at home may or may not be recyclable here. The guidelines and processes of recycling are unique to their region, and Pitt has its own particular way of recycling. This is why those in Pitt Experience partner properties may have different recycling guidelines. Their waste will not be managed by the same people as other Pitt housing locations. The place you will probably be spending most of your time is in your room, and so it's important you recognize the different bins that will be in your room and how to make the best use of them. You'll be getting mini bins like the ones to the left a blue bin for recycling and a black for landfill. While you may be inclined to line these bins with a plastic bag, please do not. Plastic bags are not recyclable, and lining the bin will only encourage you to put dirty things in it. Once your recycling or trash bin is full, it's time to head over to the landfill room. The landfill rooms are either located on the main floor or on each floor of a residence building and contain large bins for recycling and landfill, as shown in the central image. On the right, you can see an example of recycling and landfill stations that you might encounter outside of your landfill room. These central recycling bins are lined with clear bags, while landfill bins are lined with black bags. There are various freestanding and joined bins throughout indoor and outdoor campus locations for recycling and landfill, and they all follow the same guidelines when it comes to recycling. Before we jump into recycling, let's take a glance at what is accepted for landfill. There may be items on the signage that you had previously recycled or thought recyclable, but they are not recyclable here at Pitt. Any foam materials like styrofoam, bottle caps and lids, plastic films like cling wrap, wrappers or bags, and plastic utensils should be placed in landfill and not recycled. So plastic bags, wrappers, etc. What is recyclable at Pitt is based on guidelines that were set by the companies Pitt works with that haul and process the material. So what are the guidelines for recycling at Pitt? Shown here is our recycling signage that reflects what is acceptable for recycling on campus. Something that is universally important to recycling is that whatever you place in recycling needs to be empty, clean, and dry, and should never be wet or dirty. This is especially important for items that previously had food in them. You can use this signage for determining if your waste should go in landfill or recycling. Whatever you are considering to recycle should fall into one of these 4 categories. The paper category consists of broken down and flattened cardboard, magazines, newspaper, office and glossy paper, paperboard, mail, and books. The metal category includes aluminum, tin and steel containers, and aluminum foil. The plastic category consists of bottles, jugs, jars, and containers that are made of plastic. And lastly, the glass category includes bottles, jugs, jars, and containers that are made of glass. These categories include common items that you are likely going to need to get rid of at some point, and that are proven recyclable by our hauler. When it comes to recycling, follow this rule. If the item you are considering to recycle is described by one of these categories that's on the signage, and the item is empty, clean, and dry, then it can be put in the recycling. Recycling is a tricky practice, and the challenge of contamination is caused both by well-intentioned and unmindful people. Contamination is the introduction of items to recycling that cannot be recycled. These items disrupt the recycling process. Contamination in recycling is introduced by either food, liquid, or items that cannot be processed by the recycling facility. Although food or liquid can degrade the recyclability of other items it shares a bag with, there are items that don't have to be dirty that are still considered contamination. Contamination is measured as a percentage of material that is non-recyclable. Therefore, a Pringles can, being made of multi-layered packaging, would be considered contamination, just as melted ice cream would. It is important to think about contamination as not only the messy things, because in the end, all types of contamination cause issues that impose costs onto the process. It is very important to be conscious of these hurdles. When the contamination of a recycling bin is too high, the whole batch in contact with that recycling is sent directly to the landfill. Here at Pitt, this threshold is just half of 1%. And these slides are some more examples of contamination in recycling bins. There are a few common examples of contamination that we see over and over again in recycling. This includes plastic films such as bags, candy and snack, wrappers, and bubble wrap. We also see a lot of dirty items such as napkins, peanut butter jars, and greasy pizza boxes. Some other items that are commonly contaminated recycling include styrofoam straws, lids, hot coffee cups, and bubble mailers. Why are these items considered contamination? They do not meet the signage criteria, and they are not, as they are not empty, clean, and dry, and do not fall into one of the categories. Therefore, these items should have been put in the landfill, or in the case of the peanut butter jar, emptied, cleaned, and dried before being placed in recycling.
Thank you, Jules. Here are some examples of items that are acceptable for recycling because they're on the signage and they're also empty, clean, and dry. So in this image, you can see examples are mostly plastic items, such as shampoo, conditioner, hand soap, and detergent containers, as well as some soda bottles. Also note that there are no lids on these bottles. All lids and caps should be removed from the container and placed in the landfill. However, don't get rid of your lids immediately. Imagine that you have a ranch bottle and it's coated on the inside. You pour a little water in, screw the lid on, and shake it up. You can do a pretty good job of cleaning it out. I personally found that shaking my soda containers like that ranch bottle with a little bit of water inside is a much more water efficient way of cleaning it than rinsing and repeating. We'd also like to mention a few examples of common recyclables that you'll probably run into on campus. This includes the cups from the milkshake factory or Starbucks, and also the aluminum lids from Chipotle. These items are all identifiable by our recycling signage, and therefore they have the potential to be recycled at Pitt. I say potential because they are recyclable by our standards as long as they are not obviously dirty. Coffee cups for cold beverages can be recycled, but those intended for hot beverages should be landfilled. And obviously, dirty items that are identified by our signage should be emptied, cleaned, and allowed to dry before going into a recycling bin. So let's run a drill. Say that you have an item in your hand that you want to get rid of. The first thing you should consider is, should I put this in recycling or landfill? If the item falls under one of the categories on the signage and it is empty, clean, and dry, then it can go into recycling. If not, then it should go in the landfill. Now, what if your item does fall into one of the categories on the signage, but it is not empty, clean, or dry? Well, then it should always go into the landfill unless you can clean it. It's very important that you resist the temptation to contaminate the recycling, as even a very small amount of food or liquid can degrade the whole batch of recycling. Now, if you also are unsure of whether your item is recyclable or not, it is best to follow the slogan, when in doubt, throw it out. However, many people like to skip this type of thinking and then throw many non-recyclables into the recycling, such as plastic bags, soiled microwave meal trays, and straws. This action is called wish cycling, and it occurs when people place their often non-recyclables in the recycling because they think it is better to be safe than sorry. In reality, though, this mindset and ignoring of signage strongly contributes to the issue of contamination. So don't feel bad about landfilling stuff that is unrecyclable, or if you are unsure of its recyclability. By making the most informed choices that we can in the present, we're benefiting the system in the long run. Another issue that results from improper recycling practices is presented in these photos. And these images are a couple examples of a landfill room. You may notice that some things seem wrong in these images. I think that the most obvious thing is the boxes. Cardboard boxes should always be broken down, flattened, and propped against or between recycling bins in the landfill rooms. So in these images, residents did not break down their boxes and instead crowded the room, thus preventing easy access to the otherwise empty recycling or landfill bins. And these images here were taken after the boxes in the last slide were broken down. So now, as you can see, the room is now much more accessible to myself and other residents. So not breaking down your boxes and cluttering the landfill room is not only inefficient, but it also poses a barrier to other students' accessibility to the landfill and recycling bins. So how can we even recycle anything if the bins are blocked up with a few wonky boxes? So once it is time for your landfill room to be emptied, housing staff will collect all the landfill and recycling, as well as any loose boxes that are broken down. The waste materials are then moved to a loading dock. At this point, the staff will evaluate the recycling they have collected. So if the recycling appears uncontaminated, then the bag is held over a large storage tub, cut open and emptied. So you may notice in this photo that the large storage tubs only have cardboard in them. Well, this is because the residents of this building contaminated their recycling so much that their recycling was landfilled. Any bags of recycling that appear to be contaminated above 0.5% are placed in the landfill pile. So this percentage is as strict as it sounds. Contamination is such a devastating threat to recycling that processing facilities must be very careful about what they accept. This is why it is extremely important that any participation in recycling is done tentatively. It only takes one individual to deteriorate all others' contributions. Eventually, the recycling that is stored in these large tubs will be hauled to a recycling facility for processing. So the options you have for recycling are not just limited to what is collected in your landfill room. On campus, there are many locations designated for drop-off of specific items, such as textiles, batteries, and medications. Textile collection entails items such as coats, towels, pillows, curtains, shoes, belts, and hats. Textiles you recycle should not be soiled, and you should never place a mattress topper in textile recycling. There are freestanding collection barrels located throughout campus, such as at Benedum and Phosphor Hall and the William Pitt Union. Items that you place in textile recycling should be end-of-life items, meaning that they are beyond repair or use. Otherwise, consider taking your thriftable items to Thriftburg. There are also recycling options for batteries and medicines on campus. Batteries can be dropped off for proper disposal at many locations, including Litchfield Towers, Benedum and Phosphor Hall, and the William Pitt Union, which are all the same locations where you can also find textile recycling bins. Dry cell batteries of any size or type can be collected at one of these stations. If you wish to dispose of unused or expired medications, there are two locations where you can do so on campus: the Public Safety Building and the University Pharmacy at Nordenberg Hall. These locations will accept prescriptions, non-leaking liquids, over-the-counter medicines, vitamins, supplements, pet medicines, creams, gels, and ointments. However, they will not accept items such as injectables or inhalers. Although recycling may be one of the most visible methods of alleviating your waste footprint, reduce and reuse should always come first. We normally have a few great programs running here at Pitt for reusable mugs and to-go containers, but these have unfortunately been sidelined due to COVID. This includes our Choose to Reuse and Bring Your Own Mug programs. When this program is operational, you can request that your food is packaged in a reusable container called an Aussie container when ordering at select locations on campus. The container is redeemed through your PIT ID for the first time, but to participate again, you must first return your container. There are a few return machines around campus that scan a barcode on the bottom of your container, collect it, and dispense you a token. So this token can then be used to redeem an Aussie container again, and the recycle repeats. Through our Bring Your Own Mug program, you normally could bring your own mug for drinks at our coffee stations with the incentive of 99-cent coffee and tea, as well as discounts on other drinks. So although these programs are sidelined for the time being, you can still safely practice the use of your own reusables by frequently cleaning your water bottle or your coffee mugs with hot soapy water. Regardless, there are still some other reuse programs that you can safely participate in this upcoming semester. And also, as I mentioned earlier when discussing textile recycling, Thriftburg is a great option for giving reuse potential to your clothing items. Located in the O'Hara Student Center near Soldiers and Sailors, Thriftburg thrives as a student-run thrift store. For all clean and gently used items that you donate, you are traded 50% of its worth in store credit. Thriftburg will be running remotely this upcoming semester, and I encourage you to follow their Facebook or Instagram for updates. We also have a Bring Your Own Bag program here at Pitt. Students that use their own reusable bags can avoid a fee of 25 cents that is imposed on each disposable bag they were to use at the Market at Towers or Forbes Market, for example. Participation in the Bring Your Own Bag program requires that you bring your own bag to check out your own items due to COVID. So there isn't any bagging done by any staff at checkout. Please remember to wash your reusable bags, as this is especially more important now than ever. Many reusable bag types can be disinfected with antibacterial sprays, wipes, or hot water and soap. There's actually a guide for this on our Pitt Ecoreps Instagram. Okay, so this brings us to the end of our webinar on recycling and relevant alternatives at the University of Pittsburgh. So I'm going to skip to the end of this and say that please visit this website listed to the bottom right. It will provide you with everything you need to know about succeeding as a sustainable student. And there is a section specifically on everything we talked about today called Recycling, Compost, Zero Waste. If you'd like to keep up to date on Pitt student sustainability initiatives, follow Pitt SUS and Pitt Ecoreps on Instagram. And so Anthony, if you'd like to begin with the questions, please.
Yeah, so let's jump into the frequently asked questions, just so everybody's on the same page and we can address most of your questions as early as possible. So just to begin, Jules, can you tell us where we can find the recycling battery stations?
Yeah, definitely, Anthony. So you can recycle your batteries at the battery recycling stations, which are found in Litchfield Tower A, Lothrop Hall, Sutherland Hall, or various other locations listed on sustainable.pitt.edu/zero waste, and that link will be dropped in the chat and also in the description of this video, probably.
All right, thank you, Jules. And since we're already on that topic, Aaron, where can we recycle a calculator? Is that similar or different?
Yeah, so if you're a student, you probably have like smaller electronics you're trying to recycle. So if it's something comparable to a battery, like a small handheld calculator, as in it can fit into one of the battery drop-offs, you're welcome to actually deposit it in there. If maybe you're in office or you have larger electronics, then it's worth getting in contact with the Mascaro Sustainability Center or Facilities Management.
Okay, thank you. Now, I just want to reiterate something real quick, then go to the next questions. Do all dorms rooms come with a recycling and a landfill bin? That is correct, yes?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Working off of that, what if I feel that something is recyclable, but it's not on the signage?
Yeah. So it really isn't worth the risk. So, you may be coming from somewhere where you are sure that something is accepted for recycling, but it isn't very explicit on our signage that it is. Well, it's just, you kind of have to not give into that temptation, because that would be wish cycling as much as it might not seem it is. It's not worth that kind of risk. If it's not explicitly on the signage, even if you feel that you're pretty knowledgeable about it, it's better to be safe than sorry, especially when it comes to college recycling, where there's so much trash and contamination ending up in recycling bins.
Okay, really appreciate that, Aaron. Now, Jules, this question might not be relevant for all of our audience right now, but believing that people are going to stay at Pitt for a long time, what about recycling off campus?
So for recycling off campus, you should refer to the city guidelines, which you can find at pittsburghpa.gov/GPW/residential recycling. The city's recycling guidelines, you can just Google it. And because the city's recycling guidelines are just a little bit different from Pitt's. There's some things that are recyclable at Pitt that aren't recyclable for the city's recycling, and vice versa, because Pitt does their recycling separately from the rest of the cities. So that's definitely something if you're going off campus, even like if you're going like to spend a lot of time off campus, you're going to be using like public recycling bins, just like looking at the city's guidelines are always like a good thing to do as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, that's pretty much all the questions for recycling, but you two also touched on reusables as well. So, Jules, do I need a Pitt reusable bag to avoid the Pitt disposable bag fee?
No, you'll only be charged 25 cents per disposable bag that you use. So as long as you bring your own method of carrying your purchases, there's no fee. So you can literally just like carry them in your arms if you want, or like put them in your backpack. I usually just put things in my backpack, and I carry a small reusable bag that doesn't say Pitt on it or anything, that I got not at Pitt, that fits in my backpack, that I just use to carry things around. It's really smart to keep a small reusable bag in your backpack just in case you end up buying more items than you have room for in your backpack. But it does not have to be a PIT reusable bag to get to avoid that 25-cent fee.
All right. Well, personally, I'm glad to hear there's no arbitrary restriction there. Now, for Aaron, we talked about the bring your own mug and bring your own bottle programs for a little bit, but just to give people some peace of mind, like, will the water fountains and bottle refill stations also be open due to during the COVID-19 period here?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a good question that you may be wondering if the water fountains will actually be working because you have to touch them to use them. Every water fountain that I've seen on campus, and I've been here a couple of years, has a no-touch sensor, and those that, in the rare exception, do not have a no-touch sensor should be at least getting one, especially this year. So it's pretty much a guarantee that the water fountain you're going to be using is going to have a no-touch sensor to which you can hold up your water bottle and get water. So yes, they will all be working. There will be easy and accessible ways to get your own water.
All right. Thank you very much. I actually wish that I had more questions that I can ask you guys. Just can't think about any more right off the top of my head. But you guys seem pretty knowledgeable about these stuff, and I really felt like I learned some new things from this presentation today. So, on behalf of the audience that may or may not be here, I want to thank you for taking the time to be here today, and officially wrap up for today.
All right. Yep. Thank you, Anthony.
Thanks for watching too, if you're watching this.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.